How are you doing, Shaliah?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great. So you've been in the industry now for, I was on your LinkedIn, so you've been in technically now for 9 months since you started at your first company.
Yeah, since last November.
Hey, yeah,
hmm
okay, that's pretty. It's so weird because November feels like it was just November, like a couple months ago, but it's like nah, it
Yep.
actually was like 9 months ago. So that's pretty
Yep.
crazy.
I remember when I was going with you because I accepted an offer with that one company, and then the next one offered me more money. So I
Yeah,
was like, I already accepted this. Should I go back?
yeah,
So yeah.
and yeah. Well, and I definitely want to get into that. So first and
Yeah.
foremost, let me adjust this too for the peoples. All right. So first and foremost, please share with everybody just a little bit about who you are before you got in tech. I know that that you have a background experience as a film producer, and so just please share with people
Mhm.
just some of your background, including that and other things before you did the boot camp, before you even thought about getting in tech.
Yeah, definitely. So hey everybody, I'm Shaliah. So I'm a filmmaker. I do have a production company. It's called Leah Page Productions. So recently we've been doing more so like commercials and music videos, but I started out writing and then we transformed into that. So I actually graduated in 2020, so literally when the pandemic started, so a lot of opportunities I had didn't fall through. The well funny, the last one that I did work on, They Clone Tyrone, that's coming out on
Oh,
Netflix next month. So
yeah.
yeah, that's the last one. But after that, it was, the different requirements. So I said, okay, I need to do something else.
Yeah.
So I started working with the government, but I was like, I still want to have more free time to do film. And so I was following your page for a minute because I knew you from the poetry. And then I kept hearing you talk about tech. So I don't know why I procrastinated, but I did. So eventually I took the course in July and I procrastinated a bit on that. I finished in August, but I think literally a month after I got my first offer.
Yeah. So I remember. So what did that? So you did the boot camp. All right. So film and production, which is crazy. There's actually someone else who's came on my live before. I'm actually trying to think of his name because he and I we communicate a lot on Instagram, but for some reason I'm drawing a blank right now. He might be here in the chat because he pops up a lot. He's a really dope dude, and he also has a background in film as well. Like he was in Better Call Saul, and he was like a
Oh,
recurring cast member on certain things. And so he came on and he
that's
was
cool.
talking about him getting sick. So I think that's pretty cool. So,
hmm
so film and production, of course, we, connected online. You saw me doing poetry, and then you saw me start talking about tech stuff. You say you
Yeah.
procrastinated, but realistically, it's kind of like that could seem like random and weird to see me go from like poetry and all this stuff to tech. So I think it makes sense. You probably were like, all right, let me kind of hold up for a second. But what
Yeah.
made you want to get in tech? Like, what was going on, and you were like, yo, I want to go ahead and get into this industry?
Because I like what I was doing. I was basically helping small business owners who were in fact impacted by COVID get like loans and grants for their business. But it took emotional toil because it was so many people, they lost a lot of money, and that was kind of getting to me a little bit. And some of them, they didn't mean to, but they were like very rude and I was trying to help. So I was ready to move on and get better hours. And then I heard what you were saying, like you don't really work maybe that hard, maybe like 4 hours and you have unlimited PTO and things like that. So I was like, okay, this sounds much
Don't
better.
say that actual hours on her. No,
Oh, well, not
I'm
like
joking.
that,
I'm
but
joking. I'm joking. Nah, you good.
yes. So I said, okay, well, at least let me try it.
Yeah.
So I did, and I wish I would have done it months before. I'll say that. So yeah.
I like this conversation because most of the people that I've talked to, specifically people who, so with the podcast for Tech is a New Black, I usually interview people on the podcast that have been in tech for at least over a year, but usually I try to interview people that have been in like two or more years, because the whole
hmm
goal of the podcast is to educate people on like how to scale in the industry, educate them on like just different things. Usually most people's first 6 months to a year in the industry is really just them kind of like digging their heels in a little bit, getting comfortable.
Right.
And so the reason like for why I do the Instagram lives is because it's like, hey, this is an opportunity for people to like share their story who recently got in the industry and kind of talk about what
hmm
it's currently like right now. And so, but what
Yeah.
I'm really excited about, like with just a conversation with you, is the fact that you you're still new to the industry. You haven't been in a year yet, but you've been in long enough that you've had enough experience in it to develop a sense of not just being comfortable at your job, but also being comfortable in the industry, and also,
Right.
the honeymoon phase is kind of being over a bit. Because it's like it's one thing for somebody to get in the industry or start doing something. It's like their first month or second month. A lot of people can be pretty kind of excited, but it's like usually after some time goes by, we start to find ourselves leaving that honeymoon phase, and we're like, okay, how do I actually feel about this? Like, is this really a good decision? So I am curious. So like, do you still? I know you just said a minute ago that you wish you had done it sooner. How do you just feel, before we kind of get into the details, how do you feel 9 months into the industry? Like, what do you think about it? Is this an industry where you're like, yo, this actually is like really dope? Like, what would you say?
It is. I do feel a lot more confident. Like I'm kind of on that, like looking for other companies like you, the job switching, job hopping. So it's like, I feel a lot better, like applying for stuff, basically. Like, I don't feel like I don't have enough experience or whatever, because I think they just want to know how to do the job. Exactly. And if you'll fit in with the company. And it's simple. Anybody can learn the tech. So I feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, that's super fire. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I will say that the only few times, there's only been a handful of times I've ever seen people months in where they're like, they're not like super excited, and usually after further investigation, they're at like some trash tech company where it's like that company is like not a good company at all, and that's really strange. Either that, or I talk to people that have been in tech for so long, it's like they've forgotten what it's like being in other industries, so they start like downplaying being in tech, and I'm like you tripping, like. It's like it's like a person that's in like an amazing relationship with an amazing partner, and then they start nitpicking over stuff, and other people are like, yo, you do not want to be single. It's actually toxic out here in these streets. It's like, you better be happy where you at with a good person that loves you. So that's usually something I see a lot. So, especially
if it's good benefits. Like my company, they were actually headquartered in London, so they flew me out to London, all expense paid, to Texas. This is like in my first weeks being there. So healthcare, everything is all paid for. So it's really good. I got a lot of stuff done.
Was that your first time in London?
Yeah. And that's somewhere I wanted to go. So yeah.
Wow, that's so. Yo, I would have been tripping. Y'all, ain't that
I was
crazy?
like, really? So that was fun. My sister got to come out too. So it was, again, hotel. They do everything. So it was really.
It was like a whole vacation for you and your sister.
Yep.
That's wow.
All expense paid on their dime.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, I think most of the at this point, most of the traveling that I've done in my life has actually been from working in tech now, which is crazy. It's actually really wild. And so whether it's because my companies have flown me out, or it's because I was at a tech event, it's like either way, it's been for tech now. Like most of my traveling, it's been pretty intense. My first company that I was at, they actually they took me to Las Vegas, and they took me to Austin, Texas. And both of those are places I had never been to before. So it was really, especially Vegas. They put me in this hotel in Vegas that was so crazy, and it like overlooked. I swear it had to have been the best view in Vegas. I was like, there's nothing like it. Just blew my mind. It blew my mind how crazy it was.
Yeah. And so they let us choose our rooms too. They just give us the company card. So
I ain't have it like that. They chose the rules and stuff. I ain't have it like that. That's crazy. I love that though.
Yeah.
That's fine. So you did the boot camp, and somebody reminded me in the chat. It's Shaquille. Shaquille is the one who was somebody who's came on the live before, and he also did. I believe he did Course Careers as well, and he did Course Careers, and he basically his background is in film. Like he's an actor. And so, I believe it was Shaquille. Well, I know it's Shaquille that came on now. And somebody else on YouTube, in the YouTube comments over here they said, I'm literally in video production thinking about transitioning into tech. Yo, for everybody who is listening and you're thinking that you're interested in a career in tech sales, I suggest you check out Course Careers. Course Careers is a tech boot camp that you can do entirely from home. It's entirely virtual, and it's self-paced. So that means you can knock it out in as early as 2 weeks, or even take a few months if you need to.
Now, the really cool thing about Course Careers is that they're actually partnered with multiple tech companies that are hiring their students right after finishing the program. The great thing about Course Careers is that with those partnerships, they're able to guarantee you jobs with some of their partner companies. Now, beyond that alone, the other cool thing we want to tell you about them is that Course Careers is actually only $500. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. But since we partner with Course Careers, they're offering our audience a discount of $50 off that already low price. So make sure you use our discount link that we have below, so that way you can take advantage of that $50 off that already low price. Do Course Careers at your own pace and let us know what job you end up getting from it.
So this is perfect. This is actually like a really perfect thing. And again, the whole goal, I always tell people the goal isn't to like tell everybody, yo, everybody needs to get in tech. But it's like, yo, like if you're not either making the kind of money you want to make now, or if you're like really stressed, or if you just need something else, it's like this industry is definitely like a dope industry that I think will like benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, and like with my job, like I could, doing the BDR role, you can really work whenever you want. Like if you do sales engineer, which I did a little bit of that too. I'll talk about it basically.
Okay, cool.
But BDR, you can just work whenever, wherever. Like they don't care. Like there would be sometimes I would only work for like 2 hours. I take a nap in the middle of the day. But just as long as you're doing what you need to do, they really don't care. So you definitely have a lot of free time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I'm happy that you mentioned the BDR thing and the sales engineering thing, because that is something I was trying to figure out, because I know you did Course Careers, and I knew you did Course Careers, but then when I was looking at your LinkedIn, I saw some sales engineers / solutions engineer stuff on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So that threw me off. I was like, did she do Course Careers? Did she do a tech sales boot camp, but got a sales engineering job? Because one thing a lot of people don't know, y'all, sales engineering is not, it's technically not a tech sales job. It's really considered a pre. That was a straight up interruption. I need to.
Okay.
I don't know. That would have been the smart thing to do. So anyway,
okay, you're back now.
It's really it's not a tech sales job. And but that being said, so some people think that they can do Course Careers and get a sales engineering job. It can happen, but I've only seen it happen like once or twice. It's not the norm. But when I saw in your work history, I was like, okay, so she did Course Careers, but you've also done some sales engineering work. So so can you talk about that? Like talk about, and then after talking about this, I definitely want to backtrack and talk about like your kind of applying, interviewing process, how you actually got in tech. But I just wanted to at least bring that up because that's pretty interesting. And I think a lot of people want to hear about that. The fact that you did the tech sales boot camp, but you've done both tech sales work and you've done some sales engineering work. So how does that happen?
Yeah, so, and this is to, I guess, everybody who wants to kind of do it. So I wanted to initially do sales engineering, but from what you said, I knew that BDR was like maybe the quickest and easiest way to get into it, in the cheaper course, obviously. So what I did was I paid for that. I said, okay, let me just get into tech. But on every interview that I did, I let them know like, yeah, I want to be a BDR, but I would always bring up, like, I'm looking for a company where I can, in the next few months, grow into a sales engineer position.
Yeah.
So I kind of let it be known in the beginning. In every account executive, like the first month, they had us just meet everybody, and I let all of them know. So since they knew that, they were happy. They would actually let me do that on their calls with them. Like I would lead in the calls and give it basically the technical portions of our company. It's an AI company too, so pretty cool.
So is it?
So yeah,
because I think I remember the name. Also, really quick, I will encourage you. Of course, we can't control this on LinkedIn. We can't control this on LinkedIn, but specifically for Instagram, I would encourage you to. I mean, it's up to you, but I would encourage you personally to not say the company name that you work at. I definitely want to talk about the company and talk about what they do, because it's an AI company.
Yeah.
And one, I'm a huge fan of AI. I'm an AI co-founder. And so, but I love AI. So I'm really curious about what your company does, but I would encourage you not to say your company's name. The only reason why I have been running into an issue, look, y'all, I love y'all. I love everybody who's on here, but I've had people that have come on the live recently that have been telling me yo, Cyrus, a lot of people keep applying to my company and they're lying to my company, putting me down as a reference saying that they know me or that we know each other. So it's like, it's probably just gonna say the company name, but of course, people that are on LinkedIn are gonna see the company you're at, which is cool. It's like we're just hoping that, you know, those of y'all that do see the company she's at, not saying don't apply to it, but don't apply acting like you know her and saying that she's your reference. You know, because at the end of the day, you're definitely not gonna get the job if y'all do that. Like, because if you do that, and you're gonna be exposed for being a liar right away, and now you're not gonna even get an interview, like job or nothing. So y'all gotta think. Those of y'all that are doing that with the guests that I'm doing a live with, you gotta think that's not the best way to get a job. That's actually gonna like ruin your chances. Well, you know, move with a certain level of integrity. Anyway, that being said, so what was the process like, you know, after the boot camp? You said you got your first job a month after the boot camp, and I recall, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I went through our DMs today, and I recall from the DMs that you actually got your first role in, it's not an unorthodox way, it's a way that I encourage people to do. Like, aside from applying, I encourage people to do this other thing that you did. And I would love for you to share how you actually got your job and what that process was like.
Definitely. So I was trying to get in as quick as possible. So every time I would apply for a job, I would try to reach out to a sales recruiter, hiring manager, and even the VP of sales, like everybody. And sometimes I didn't know exactly who may be the recruiter because they didn't have it listed. So I would just let them know, hey, I'm looking, you know, to be in this position. I applied today. And, you know, if you're not the right person, can you tell me like who the right person is, or maybe like leave a note on my account? And a lot of them would just, if they weren't the right people, they would just tell me who it was. But I would do that, definitely. And especially if you do want to get into the SDR, BDR role, I do think another cool thing, I didn't do it, but if you cold call or cold email some of the hiring managers or VP of sales, I definitely think that'll make you stand out because you're already basically doing the job. So that's something I've told people to do that.
I've never heard anybody share that. Have y'all heard of that tip? Have y'all heard anybody? Because I think at this point, you're probably somewhere around like the 40th person that like I've like done a live with, and I've never heard someone share that tip. You know what's wild? I think just off top, you and Shaquille, it must be something about the film production industry, because Shaquille was giving some fire tips that I had never heard anybody share. And that's a crazy tip right there that you just shared.
Yeah, and there's a free Troy talked about it on Course Careers. It's called Apollo, APOLLO.io. It's free. It's basically like Zoom info, but it's free, and it'll give you their emails and phone numbers. So I would highly recommend that. Cold call, cold email, introduce yourself, say you want the role. They want to hear that you want to make money. I learned that after a lot of interviews when I didn't go up. I used to say, you know, I want to help people find solutions, which I do, but I said I'm in it to make money. That's what they want to hear, any sales job. So make sure you're really hard on that.
I believe that. You know what's funny is that you saying that, I know most people will probably be thinking, this was my knee-jerk reaction too. Most people are probably thinking like, yo, like that's weird to tell a company like, yo, I'm here, I'm trying to make some money. It's like, but the thing is, in tech sales, any business owner, they want a team member or a worker that's coming to make money, because they understand, yo, the more money you're making, that's gonna by default be making us more money as well. So it's like they want a person that's in it for the money. I mean, y'all think about it. Anytime you have a business partner or someone that you're working with, you want someone that's trying to get to the bag, not get to the bag to the point that they're gonna try to like, you know, do something dirty to you, but get to the bag where you know that they're gonna hustle hard. And so that's actually, that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense to share that.
Definitely. And I learned it again after I was going through third rounds of interviews, and they would ask that. And then I could tell like by their reactions. And so then afterwards I was like I asked the people, what made you want to get into sales? And all of them said the same thing, money. So I said, okay, I need to start saying that in my interviews. And once I said that, it was just everybody was feeling it. So yeah, definitely say how much you really want to make money. That's what they want to hear.
That makes a whole lot of sense. So so I know that, so you were networking, and there was some people that you had met, and they liked you a lot. They wanted to set you up on those rounds of interviews. where exactly were you networking at? Because that's something I don't recall you mentioning.
No, it was actually, I just saw a post on LinkedIn.
Oh
This
yeah,
guy
that's what
said,
it
here's
was.
a
I'm thinking
list of
networking.
hiring
Yeah.
managers. Yeah, there was like, here's a list of hiring managers. And I just looked, he said, reach out to them. So I said, hey, like, I just saw this by this person. I would love to interview, or is there an application? Because I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just reached out, said, hey, let's talk. And so I didn't apply for the job. She just said, tell me about yourself. That was it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was the easiest out of all the interviews. That was the easiest. It was nothing but conversation.
So you conversed with her, and then she just had you do like some light interviews with a couple other people at the company. I'm trying to make sure
Yeah.
I'm going off the flow. So it was like, so instead of it being something where you had to just manually apply and then you were waiting to hear back from them, instead you more so connected. They liked you, and then they were like, "Yo, we just got to confirm that other people here like you too." And then after that, it's all money. So that's really important to share that, because one of the things I'm always pushing. I put up a post a couple of days ago, and I try not to I'm not like a shady person or anything, but I have different friends that I like that I know are not doing good financially, and I've helped friends and people out money wise, but I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna pay for y'all to do boot camp so that way y'all can get in tech and y'all can be making money too. And one of the things I've noticed is that, and this isn't with all of them, most of my friends that I've paid to do boot camps, most of them are in tech now, or the ones that I just told to do a boot camp. Most of them are in tech now, but just the few friends that I have, a couple friends that I have in particular, where they're not in tech, I was noticing, seeing them post a lot of stuff on Instagram. And I was like, man, they spend a lot of time on Instagram. And I was like, do they have a job in tech yet? And so, because these are like friends that, you have friends, you don't talk to them all the time. So I went to their LinkedIn, and it was like they were not posting, not doing anything on LinkedIn. And then I hit them up like, yo, like, what's going on? Are you working? And they're like, no, I'm still trying to find something. And I'm like, but you're not engaging on LinkedIn. It's like you spending all this time on Instagram, where Instagram is not making you any money. Like, you're just on here posting selfies. And it's like, when you could be on LinkedIn, you could still be having fun posting selfies on LinkedIn, but you could post a selfie and have a sentence or two that says something about, you being, a great candidate for a tech sales role or a sales engineering role, drop a couple tips or gems or something you learned from the boot camp. And now at least the engagement that you're getting could set you up to get a job opportunity. Or instead of you scrolling aimlessly on Instagram, maybe scroll aimlessly on LinkedIn, and they could see a post like the post that you saw that you were able to engage with. And so I think that, like, I love you mentioning that. And that was one of the things I was excited about people hearing, is how, because the mere fact that you were just scrolling on LinkedIn, you were hanging out on LinkedIn, instead of, and there's nothing wrong with hanging out on other social media platforms, before getting a job, but the fact that you were still spending time on there in order to see that. And that's why I think my mind went to networking, is because it's like networking. It's like, but you're networking online on LinkedIn, to where you're able to engage with people. And so I love that a lot. And I hope a lot of people, somebody said in the comments, they said Instagram is for the show, LinkedIn is for the dough. And that's funny. I don't know if this is the same person, but one of the podcast guests that we had, he's actually one of the co-founders of Pivot Tech Bootcamp. He said that during the podcast. He said, Instagram is for the show, LinkedIn is for the dough. And it's like, that is the straight up truth. Those are facts. So
yeah, you definitely got to have a hustle. Like, even with my last job, when I tell you, it was like 10 hours, and it was very strict lunch and like breaks. Every break, when I tell you, I schedule all my interviews during lunchtime, during breaks, bathroom breaks. Like, I was literally doing so much. Like, while working, I was interviewing. So I said, look, I'm about to get in. So you really have to have a hustle, because I've tried to get a lot of other people in too, and I was, doing their resumes and LinkedIn, but I felt like I was doing more work. And I'm like, no, I was working hard to get in, because I really wanted it. So you got to have that for yourself, that self-determination. Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I love you mentioning that you worked hard to get in, because it's like, yo, like, it is hard work to get into the industry. It's like I feel that the process getting in tech, I feel that it's a simple process, Like there are different things
Yeah.
you should do. Like obviously you should make sure your LinkedIn is set up and optimized. You should make sure you're engaging on LinkedIn. You should make sure you're
Right.
applying to a certain number of companies. You should make sure maybe you're reaching out to recruiters and hiring managers. You know, yeah, there's a process to it, but overall it's a pretty simple. It's just as simple as it is, you need to work it hard, like for real. You
Yeah.
know, and so I love that.
First game.
And so I love you sharing that because it's important for people to hear that, where it's like, yo, the opportunity here is amazing, but it's work to get in here. And it makes sense because it's like, if it was easy, then everybody would be in it. Anybody could just almost stroll into the industry.
Right.
So is the company
Just be strategic.
that you're at, so this is something I meant to ask you earlier, because since for those of y'all that missed it, so she has a BDR role, an entry-level tech sales role, but you've also done some demoing as well. Like, so you've done demos, which,
Right.
of course, for those of y'all that missed it, that is something that usually sales engineers do. Usually whenever, from my knowledge and everything I've seen, when people, whether it's BDRs or account executives, whenever they're doing demos for their companies, usually they're at a company that's either a startup or the technology isn't that complex that it requires them to have a dedicated sales engineer where that's their only job. Usually the
Right.
account executive or the tech salesperson can handle the tech sales job and can handle the demoing. And usually whenever a company, as they start to add their technology, then it gets more and more complex and has more features to where it's like, okay, cool. Now we need a dedicated sales engineer where this is their only job, and we're going to keep the tech sales people just doing the tech sales job. So what's the case with your company? Is it that your company is a startup, or is it that your company is like, you know, is a fairly decent size, but the tech stack isn't that complex that a tech salesperson can do the demo?
Yeah, so they have dedicated strictly solutions consultants, but I told everybody, like, I want to be a sales engineer. So I actually learned it myself. I took it upon myself to learn the technology.
Oh,
yeah. So I did it. I learned
fire
it.
Emoji.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta drop some fire emojis. She said, I'm about to learn this myself. I ain't even gonna let y'all teach me. I'm gonna show y'all. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I would ask questions if I didn't know, but I would always, because we have Gong, so we could watch the demo. So I would go in and watch the demos to see how they were doing it. And then I would go in the platform and just start doing it myself. So, yeah.
Yo,
but I let everybody know. So,
you're
yeah.
a go-getter.
Yo,
you are a go-getter. That's so fire. Y'all, look, you know what's crazy? People ask me all the time who are in a entry-level SDR, just SDR, BDR role. They'll be like, man, how do I transition to being a sales engineer? Or they'll be an account executive. They're like, how do I transition? And usually I tell people, I say, well, it's unlikely, it's highly unlikely a company is going to take you from an SDR, BDR, and then put you in a sales engineering role. I'm like, it's more likely if you're an account executive and then you make a lateral move over to sales engineering. I was like, but usually I tell people, like, you know, ask your company to give you use your education stipend. So then maybe you could do a pre-sales boot camp or sales engineering boot camp. But honestly, you doing that might be a really perfect backdoor way to be like, yo, I want to show y'all I've taken on my own time. I've learned how to demo the product, and I want to show this to show that I'm really like qualified to be a candidate, to be a sales engineer at the company. How did your company respond like when you did that?
So they still wanted me to wait. You know, they have a thing where they want BDR to be in it for a year, which is why one of the questions you want to ask in the interview process is what the timeline is. So I learned that personally. And they hired on more, so they weren't looking for any more. But I told the account executives, so I worked closely with them, and I would be like, hey, so they would actually let me shine, which was a good thing, to just, you know, let me get more practice in and basically do it, and I would be able to answer the questions. So it's just, I'm prepared.
So you've done,
if that makes sense.
So some of those sales calls, so you joined in on the calls with account executives, and they've allowed you to basically be like, hey, look, if any technical questions come up or if there's an opportunity for a demo, I would love to, which isn't even in your job Like, you don't even have to do that. Like, realistically, you probably could have been using that time just to be chilling and watching TV in the middle of the day. But instead, you're like, no, I'm going to work overtime. Instead of me working those 4 hours a day, like with some stuff Cyrus was saying, I'm going to work some additional time. So that way I can use this to, one, showcase my abilities, but two, to kind of practice and get those reps in.
Right, because that's what I wanted to do. So anyone that did careerists, I can say, and I think you said they're teaching tech sales now too.
Yeah, so their sales engineering course is a bit of dual training where they also give some training for tech sales as well.
Yeah, so I think that could be a good way. Now I did course careers and I still did it, but even if you did careerists and you're trying to just get in, you can get in, but in the beginning, which I think is always good, lay the foundation. Let them know that, hey, let them know you do want to be a BDR, to get the money, because they want to hear that, but also let them know that your plan is to, eventually move up in the company to be a sales engineer, so that they'll already have that in their mind. So when you start asking for stuff like, hey, like I would tell all my account executives, do you mind me doing this? And they wouldn't care because they knew that's what I wanted to do from the jump. Yeah. So I would say put that foundation in their head.
Yeah. That's fine.
In the beginning.
That's incredible. I love that so much. That's a really good thing to share. And also, I guess the only thing I would add to that is, and I'm sure you're already doing this, but this is more so for others that hear this and they're like, oh man, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna, in that interview, once the company hires me on, I'm gonna let them know that I eventually want to be a sales engineer. It is important, y'all, that during those quarterly, like those quarterly talks or conversations that you're going to have with your management or leadership team, that you're reminding them, you're like, hey, not now, of course, you don't spend the whole conversation being like, look, I don't want to do this. I want to be a sales engineer. But in there, you remind them, you say like, hey, look, I've been working on this and this and this, because again, in the future, once there's an opening, I would love to interview internally for the next sales engineering opening that we have here. Right. It's always good to remind them, because you can't ever rely on, oh, they'll remember. It's like, no, you need to remind the people of that. So that's Definitely. Really good. I love that tip that you shared. That's a really powerful tip. A lot of people on LinkedIn and YouTube right now, Justin said that's very informative. Tanisha said, kudos for being proactive and making yourself available. And a lot of fire emojis and stuff. Yeah, that's dope. I love that so much.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, this is really good for. I'm not gonna lie. Like, usually, and I guess a lot of this is part of this is a testament to just who you are. Another part of it is a testament to the fact that I think most of the people, like I've mentioned before, most of the people that I do a live stream with are usually people that have only been in the industry for maybe 2 to 3 months, somewhere around there. So, but I'm noticing the difference, and y'all let me know, all of y'all who've been here on live before, let me know if I'm tripping or not. But I think like one, again, is part of it is you, but two, I believe like just you being in the industry for 9 months, because you even sound a lot more mature. You don't sound like someone that I've talked to where it's like you're excited, but you're still like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, you really sound like someone where you're like, no, like you're a lot more confident about your job. You're confident about what you're doing. And with that, I feel like a lot of the level of insight and gems that you're dropping right now are higher level because of that.
Yeah. Definitely.
This stuff. No, this is really dope. Really, really. You make me think I need to start bringing people on that have been in tech a little bit longer first before I stream with them. Now, this is super cool. So you've been in the industry. You've been enjoying yourself. Your company done flew you out to London. Yeah. With the Brits, the UK, bro. Yep. You've been out there, and you've been enjoying the space. You've been demoing, but now you say that you're at a position now to where, I'm assuming either one, you're looking to your company to either give you an opening for a sales engineering role, or two, you are considering like looking into other companies and other opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, I've already been applying, and I've done some interviews. So yeah, I'm looking to switch. Yeah.
And are you doing specifically sales engineering roles?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fire. That is fire.
Yep.
So one of the questions, and we're about to get to the questions in a couple minutes, but one of the questions I remember off the top of my head is someone submitted earlier specifically for you, because when I put up the post for this stream, I put from film producer to sales engineering, which of course now I realize I was wrong. It should have been from film producer to tech sales. But either way, you've done sales engineering, and really it's probably prophetic in a way. It's like you are like, it's prophetic. Like you are a sales engineer. You're going to be working as a sales engineer at some point. So nevertheless, one of the questions that someone asked when they saw that title was, they said, hey, for some of the interviews that she's done, has she had to conduct a demo at all for those interviews?
So the ones that I did, I didn't make them up to the demo rounds actually. So not yet, but I still practice every day, if that makes sense, to just be prepared for it.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. And so
not yet.
But the companies that you have interviewed with for the sales you're doing, did they tell you, hey, the final round, did any of them tell you that there is a demo in one of the rounds, that they would want to see you do a demo?
Yeah, they did. So yeah, there'll be one.
Okay, that's fire. That's good. So that's gonna be so fire. You're definitely gonna be. I know you're gonna kill it and crush it as a sales engineer. Especially, it's gonna be really cool because there are very few women sales engineers, very few Black women sales engineers, and so I think it's gonna be dope to see you win. And I already know you're gonna be killing it. You're gonna be a beast. You're gonna be a beast. I'm actually really excited for you. I'm super excited for you.
Me too.
This is good. This is good. All right, so cool. So have you been to? Now these are just a couple. I'm gonna be selfish and ask you a couple quick questions that I'm curious about. Then we're gonna get to the questions that people submitted. Have you been to any tech networking events yet?
I have. So I just went to this one, Render ATL.
Yes.
Since I'm in Atlanta.
Wait, you were at Render?
Yeah.
We didn't see each other at Render though.
I saw you from afar, but you were busy, so I just kind of went on about my business. But
I was like, oh,
I saw you a couple of times there. So yeah, that there's another one in August, Blackest Tech.
Yes, so yes, Blackest Tech is happening in August in Atlanta. My team and I are actually gonna be hosting one of the after parties. So Tech is the New Black is gonna be having an after party one of the nights there. So my team and I actually, I think we submitted. Somebody on the team submitted for it, but either way, we're gonna be having an after party. So pull up.
Okay.
You come to the after party. When you see the post, make sure you come to the after party.
I'll say something there.
Yeah, exactly.
That I'm gonna go to Afro Tech too in November.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Did you submit to do anything at Afro Tech, or you just going there to enjoy yourself?
What do you mean submit to do something?
So they put out, so you could. Well, the submission window just closed Friday, and this is for everybody that's on here. Once y'all get in tech, and I encourage people to do this, those of you that feel led to do this, those of you that have some type of gift, whether you're a gifted speaker or you might want to be on a panel or you want to talk about a specific topic, at most of these tech events, you can submit to be a guest speaker. And you could all you have to do is submit, and you just put what you want to talk about. It's a pretty thorough form you have to fill out.
Oh, okay.
But that's what I was kind of saying, seeing if you submitted, because you could submit to be on a panel, and you could get a couple people and say, hey, we're gonna speak on this topic on this panel, So there's a variety of different things you can do. I definitely see that in your future. I definitely see that in your future. 2024. Yeah. You're gonna be speaking at some tech events. I already know that, and it's gonna be fire.
Okay. Look, I receive it.
Yeah. It's up. So. Blackest Tech, and yeah, y'all, make sure those of y'all that are going to be at the Blackest Tech event, that's going to be taking place in August, make sure y'all pull up to the Tech is the New Black after party as well. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a really good time. So
I'm excited. Render was really fun. I like that one.
Yeah. Render was dope. I'm not gonna lie. Afrotech gonna blow your mind, because you didn't go to Afrotech last year, did you?
No.
Afrotech is gonna blow your mind. It's crazy.
Yeah. I heard it's a lot bigger.
Yeah. It's like, it is the biggest. When specifically Black tech events, it's the biggest by far. There's nothing close even it's like they're in a whole nother league in terms of size and prowess and everything else. It's really incredible. And it's such a beautiful thing to see, where it's whoa. And it's every tech company is there, and the size of their booths, it's crazy. You realize how much money these tech companies are paying to be in a space around like black techies, it's actually really cool. It's really dope to see. It's a super.
Yeah, I heard really good things about it, so I said I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Look, I used to wait on people to go, but I'm like, no, let me just go by myself if nobody else wants to come. Just
Exactly.
I've started doing
and
that.
it's like a big family reunion. So even when you get there, it just feels very. I say this all the time. I hate to say this, but it's like there's nothing better. I don't think there's any better place to be at when you are a young black person than to be at a place with a lot of other people of color that are all either making a lot of money because they're in tech, or they're very inspired and jovial because they are on the path to get into the tech industry. So it's like just the vibes, the culture. It's honestly probably one of the most beautiful like experiences I've had as a black man in my life. It's like really a dope thing. It's incredible.
Yeah, I hear it's really fun too. So like they have like good parties and stuff.
Yeah, the parties are. Yeah. I couldn't even go to half of it. It was so many parties. It's like, yo, this is. And then all the tech companies hosting parties. Amazon hosting a party. Shopify hosting a party. And so it's always a really good time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all go into these tech events. So great career opportunities. And also aside from that, it's just a great time for networking, which is really important to do, because when you network at these tech events, when you have a crazy network, I always say to people all the time, like even when a company does a layoff or whatever, it's like the people that have a crazy network are never worried about that. They're always like, okay, cool. I'm gonna just go and work with this other company. Like one of the guys who I met him not at Afrotech, I met him at a Black Men in Tech, which is a tech conference that happened before Afrotech. Met him, and he I'm not gonna say what company he works for, but there's a tech company he works for. He heard whispers about layoffs, and so he hit me up and said, "Yo, Cyrus, I'm hearing whispers about layoffs. Yo, can you hook me up with somebody at this company?" He told me the specific company, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I got to connect with that company." So I hooked him up with the person. They exchanged numbers. The person said right away, they said, "Oh, if you want a job, I got you. Like you straight." And so it's like the power of networking and having a large community where it's like we all can like look out for each other, support each other, help each other out. It's really important to do for people to not just get in the industry, but to also get in the industry and like nurture relationships in the industry as well. But you're already like the other component is working hard, which that's it don't matter what networking you do. If you networking and everybody know you lazy, then it's like that's not gonna help you at all. So you're killing it in that component, and I already know like you're gonna grow a really strong network. So all right, so I'm done being selfish now. I'm gonna go ahead and get to two of these questions that were pre-submitted.
Okay.
All right, cool. Oh, and also y'all, I forgot to mention this earlier. I'm always forgetting to mention things I'm supposed to mention. For those of y'all that are like, man, how do you keep up with all of these different tech events? Because there are actually way more tech events than even we literally just dropped like 4 different tech events just right there. But there are way more tech events. Really, probably about 3 or 4 tech events every month. It's actually really crazy how many there are. Tech is a New Black. For those of y'all, if you go to the Tech is a New Black website or go to the link in my bio to get to the Tech is a New Black website, you can sign up for the weekly newsletter that we have. And every single week in the newsletter, we send out the most recent upcoming tech events that are happening all around. So that'll be good to kind of keep people up to date, up to par. And I use that newsletter because I don't find the companies like I know about most of the tech events. I know about most of them, but one of the team members that we have with Tech is a New Black, because again, people just see me on a podcast. It's a team of 10 of us that are like working on stuff with Tech is a New Black. And one of the team members, her dedicated role is to scour the internet and find tech events and just like find different events and stuff to add to that newsletter. Because again, the whole goal is that, the more tech events we can put people on, again, increases the opportunity for visibility, for connections, for people to, again, be able to get in tech or grow their tech network as well. So y'all make sure y'all sign up for that newsletter. That way y'all can know about all the tech events and stuff that are coming up. Blah, 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 blah. All right, so getting to these questions. All right, so you already answered the question about if you had to demo for any of those interviews that you've been in recently. Next question is, that's actually an interesting question. We're going to get to that later.
Looking for a job in tech can be tricky, but what if there's a way to automate the entire process? That's where Octoply.ai comes in. See, this software does all the work it takes for you to get hired, from researching companies to scheduling interviews, and all you have to do is just show up. Octoply.ai is the first application of its kind that will find jobs that you're top applicant for, apply to roles, reformat your resume, and manages interviews all while you sleep. So if you're tired of the tedious job search, try Octoply.ai today and let technology work for you.
Okay, what was your routine? So we understand how you got your job, but nevertheless, it's still important to talk about what was, and I guess what was and is your routine when applying to jobs, and how do you stay motivated? How did you stay motivated, and how do you stay motivated?
The benefits, honestly, that's what motivated me the most. But just a backstory. So I worked with the federal government, right? It was literally so many people called, like they didn't have a set end time sometimes. Sometimes it would be 10 to 12 hours. So what I would have to do, I would literally have to schedule it either early in the morning or like during whatever 15-minute break, during lunch breaks. And I would say like, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to be off for a second and do it then. So it's like you really have to, you can find your way around it. But yeah, it was definitely me doing it like every day after work. All I would be doing was applying. And again, after every single job, I would look up, okay, if there was no specific recruiter attached to it, I would type in sales recruiter to see who may be recruiting for sales. And if it was a lot, I would hit up a lot of them. And because I didn't know who.
So I want to pause real quick. So when you say, because again, a lot of people don't know how to like really use LinkedIn. And so even a couple of days ago, I did a one-on-one coaching with someone, and they have their LinkedIn set up, but they didn't realize that you could go to a company's page, that you can go and look up people at the company, and you can type in a role to see those people at the company that do that role. But you said something that I never even thought to do. But I want to make sure that that's kind of what you're saying, where basically, like, how would you find, you mentioned finding the sales recruiter at a company, but how would you find the sales recruiter at the company?
So I would go to the company page and click on people, and I would type in sales recruiter. Sometimes they're called talent acquisition. And it just depends on, sometimes some of them didn't have sales, and sometimes they didn't say specifically what they recruited for. I hit up all of them.
Yeah.
And you know, some of them are going to respond.
Yeah.
And then I would look up, okay, who's like the BDR manager, if I saw that anywhere, or director of sales. I would hit up the VP of sales, the chief revenue officer, literally everybody. And I would say like, hey, I just applied with these skills. I think I'd be a great fit and I'd love to interview. And they would, more often than not, I just got a lot of responses. They would either say this is the right person,
yes,
or they would send me a link to interview.
Yes.
So I would definitely say do that.
She is dropping some fire right now. I don't think y'all understand the fire she is dropping right now. Like, this is not some like play cute, like this is really some fire stuff. I mean, Shanae is here, recruiter cousin. She said, inbox us, somebody will respond, exclamation mark. She's a recruiter for the biggest tech company right now, specifically like revenue money wise. They're actually not the most valuable company. They actually are, correct me if I'm wrong, Shanae, I think that they're the highest revenue generating company right now, or they might be the most valuable company, which is Microsoft, which is crazy because a couple years ago that wasn't the case. They were still like top dogs. But a couple of years ago, it was Amazon, Apple were like above Microsoft. So Microsoft was kind of falling behind, but now they've kind of boomed up, especially probably because of the ChatGPT, because they're the largest investor in OpenAI, which owns ChatGPT. They technically kind of own it in a way. So, but that tip she gave y'all is crazy fire. I want like that. That's like a podcast worthy tip. Like, that's like a tip that I would like a guest on the podcast would share. I'm not gonna cap. I'm not gonna cap. Like, sometime probably early next year, we're gonna have to have you on the podcast, because I could tell like a lot of the stuff you know now, And then also a lot of things you're gonna learn within like the next even 6 months to a year, especially when you're at another company, after you go on tech events and stuff. I'm actually very curious to see all the things that you learned that I've never shared or never thought about sharing before. That's a really great tip you just gave. Really great. I hope y'all are getting value.
Yeah, definitely do it, y'all. Like, for real. Don't be afraid either. Just really hit them up. They love to see it.
Yeah.
No matter how big the title is.
Somebody from LinkedIn said she's going places! Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really is. She really is. I believe that. All right. So next question that we got. And I'm sorry, we are over time, so I'm gonna get to these other questions. So I ain't taking up all your evening. Appreciate you. All right. So someone asked about interview process details. I feel like you already kind of touched on that already. Is there anything else you feel led to share about interview process details?
Definitely. I actually wrote down some tips that I wanted to tell you all. Like, I learned once I started saying this stuff, I started moving forward. So definitely any sales role, if they ask why you want to do it, the number one, you can say other stuff, but you can say the main reason is because I definitely want to make a lot of money. That's what they want to hear. What I did, I would research a lot about the company. I would look up their company values. I would even look at some of their competitors and say, hey, I think your company is a little better because of this, to let them know I did the research. Yeah. So what you may lack in experience, if you know a lot about the company, that'll pique their interest because you know what you're talking about. And you know people who selling similar, you can say, hey, y'all are doing this unlike this company. So that's a good tip. And questions to ask. You need to say what percentage of BDRs, SDRs, sales engineers hit their quota. They may give you a big OTE, but if not a lot of people are hitting it, then it's not a good fit for you. And also, if you do, like, if you were like me, if you wanted to be BDR and you want to move up, ask them what's the growth timeline. What metrics do I need to hit? Like, ask that in the beginning to let them know you're serious. And if that's okay with you, that's fine. But if not, you may want to find another company where it's like 6 months, like I thought. Yeah. So definitely ask all of those questions and know about the company, the competitors. That puts an edge on you that I don't think a lot of people do that in their interview process. Yeah,
and a lot definitely don't. That's good, yo. She went in right there. You went in. I love that so much. Thank you for having that prepared. Like, I appreciate you not just coming on the live and just kind of answering the question, shooting off the hip, which you could have done and it still would have been good. But I appreciate you actually taking some time to have some things prepared. Like, I really hope y'all appreciate her for doing that. Because again, she could have really just came on here and just really answered the questions just as they came, which would have been cool. Because again, this is like, she's not being paid for this. This is her time. But to see that, like, you took additional time, like, I sincerely appreciate that. Like, you doing that for everybody. That means a lot.
Yeah. One last tip.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I learned this later. So before, I was interviewing with a lot of companies in different places. The most recent one, they were based in California. And I gave her an initial offer based on the other one. She was like, okay, I'm sure we could do more than that. If you're interviewing with a company in California or New York, you need to add on the money that compensates for that, because they have that set aside. So whether it's 20 or 30,000 or whatever it is, just make sure you add that in your price. Yeah. If they're in California or New York.
Yes, exactly.
I wish I would have negotiated higher because I didn't think about it then.
Yeah, I would definitely say Maryland. If they're in California, New York, or Maryland, just any of those places in the U.S. which are where the cost of living is really high and or the average income is significantly higher. And Maryland is one of those places as well, where the Maryland, DC, where just the cost of living and the average income level is significantly higher. But that's really good to mention. Really good to mention. All right, so someone asked, Zanaya asked, would you say it's a certain age to start? I'm 16 and turned 17 in August. I'm really interested.
Not at all. So at one point, we were hiring for BDRs, and she posted like, hey, I don't have a college degree. We're just looking for somebody with grit and resilience. So just as long as you can show that you really do want to make money. And if you did course careers, I always advise everybody, do the optional project that they say, because they're going to ask you to cold call and cold email people. It's good to say that you do have that for experience. And again, if not, just cold call and cold email the hiring managers, the VP of sales. So yeah, any age is good as long as they see that you're in it for that. You'll be good.
good. Yeah, yeah, and I agree to that. I've done. Someone's came on live with me before who did course careers, and one guy was 18 when he did course careers and got a job in tech, and another one. So two different people were 18 and 19 that have come on the live before, and even on the podcast, we recently on Tech is New Black, we recently interviewed a young man who he got in cybersecurity at the age of 19 or 20 years old. So it's very possible. It's very possible, very doable.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's really good to get in at that age, because by the time you're 25, you making over $500,000 plus, you killing it. It's still in your
That's perfect.
Crazy.
I've been telling everybody, like I have cousins and stuff who graduated. And I'm like, if you don't know what you want to do, at least do course careers and get
exactly.
tech. That's like I've been telling everybody, just do that.
Yeah. I'm going to be in Atlanta next week, and I'm going to be speaking at a church for I'm going to be speaking to young adults at church. The pastor actually hit me up today, but I know him personally. I've done stuff at the church before, years ago, before I was in tech. That actual pastor, it's like a whole side story. That actual pastor, he hit me up last year because he has young men at his church. And he was like, hey, there's one young man in particular that he was like, man, I really want to see him get in tech. He was like, look, Cyrus, is this stuff legit? He was like, I trust you. I see you doing all this stuff. He was like, is this legit? And I was laughing. I said, no, it's legit. Like, it's not some random thing I'm just talking about. And so he paid for one of the young men in his church to do. They didn't do course careers, they did careers. He paid for the young man to do careers. And the guy, I'm eventually going to bring him careers versus course careers. Yeah, those are two different things. Careers is one boot camp. She did course careers. I did careers, just to kind of give an example. The young man, he's a grown dude, but he did careers. And his only issue, because he was getting interviews, his only issue, he's one of the few people I've seen where he just interviewing was just not his skill. Like, interviewing was just, he just was not, and he wasn't horrible. It was just something about the way he came off, like, because even I did a one-on-one with him trying to figure out why he wasn't getting a job. And it was like 5 months later, he hadn't had a job. So I'm like, what's going on? And I realized, okay, he's not the best at this whole interviewing thing. So I told the pastor, because I paid for him to go to Afrotech, because I was like, yo, I said, you paid for him to do careers. I said, because at that point, I'm like, dang, I want you to trust me, pastor. Like, you respect me. I'm like, I'm telling you, like, this industry is for real. He could really get in. And the pastor trusted me too, because he actually told me, he said he's kind of awkward. I get it. He's awkward. And I was like, yeah, he is a little bit. So I paid for him to do Afrotech. Fast forward, because of one of the connects that he met, again, y'all networking, he's now a sales engineer at a tech company. And so I'm eventually going to bring him on so he can talk about what it's like being someone that doesn't interview the best, and what's like what he did, like how networking in person worked out better for him than just interviewing just online. But anyway, so I completely got all the way off. But anyway, so I'm going to be at that church next week talking to the young adults there. And they're all like high schoolers. I'm going to be speaking to high schoolers about them looking at the tech industry, where it's like, hey, maybe y'all don't need to do college. You know, it's like, unless you want to do college and there's a specific job you want to do. But it's like, most people just want to, if you just want to make money, you just get in this industry, you make a bunch of money instead of having to go off, get a 4-year degree type of thing. And so I'm pretty excited about that, going and speaking to the youth and the young adults and whatnot. All right, last question that's on here. Interesting question. Someone asked, they said, are there any tech sales roles? This is a curveball question. Are there any tech sales roles in the video game industry? And he said, if so, what are they called? Which I highly doubt you would know the answer to that, because that's like, but do you know of any tech sales roles that are in the video game industry? My knee-jerk reaction is no, but I was like, you know what? Let me let you answer this.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I definitely have seen a lot of BDR and sales engineer roles for companies that aren't necessarily tech. Like, they may be media. So it could be possible, but I'm not 1,000% sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely. The reason why, and this is an important question to answer, because this question really kind of more so delves into, I'm pretty confident this person didn't do course careers or didn't do a tech sales boot camp, because many people don't understand what tech sales is. And many people, I think because if it's a video game company, 9 times out of 10, the only thing you're selling is the video game, you know, unless the company itself has created some unique software that can enhance the video game industry. Because it's like in tech sales, you're not, another name for tech sales, and honestly, it might be a better name for it, is software sales, where it's like, instead of thinking you're selling like tech, like my computer, my MacBook is tech. It's like my iPhone is tech. But a person that works at an Apple store that's selling you an iPhone, that's not the same thing as a person who works at Apple and they're selling software to other businesses. So one is B2C sales, where you're selling to a customer. Those transaction numbers are so low. That's why people that work at the Apple store are not making 6 figures. They're not making anything close to that, because the iPhone, again, if an iPhone costs $1,000, let's say maybe you get, I don't know, I don't even know if they get commission, but let's say, okay, you get $25 commission off of every iPhone sale. It's like, you're gonna have to sell a lot of iPhones before you're gonna be making 6 figures off of that. Versus,
and the good thing with like the
you're fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the good thing with the BDROs or even sales engineer, like they don't have to buy it in order for you to get paid. So it's a lot better, in my opinion.
No, that's good. And I do want you to, like, so after I finish explaining this, I do want to kind of touch back on that and have you elaborate on that. So understand, y'all, like, so selling video games or a phone, even though these things are technology, it's not what we're talking about when we say tech sales. We're talking more software sales, or really SaaS, software as a service. So you're selling, instead of you selling a physical product, you're selling something that's a service that your company can continue to recoup money from for another business. So and I just kind of stop there because I don't want to delve too deep, but just know it's 2 different things. So if a company has a tech salesperson that's selling video games, you're not going to be making 6 figures doing something like that. Like, that's just not really going to be the case. So anyway, but there are companies like Midjourney and others that are selling software to video game companies, and they're in the video game industry in a way because they're updating the visuals of how things look. But so that might be something to look into. If you're really into video games and that's what you want to do, that might be something to look into. All right, so last question I'm going to ask you is kind of for you to touch back on that point that you mentioned, where you say, hey, look, if you're a sales engineer or you are, BDR, if you're in these roles, you're getting paid even if the deal doesn't close, even if the customer doesn't, the business doesn't go into contract with your company. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So just for example, for BDR, SDR, most tech sales roles, you have a base salary and your on target earnings, which is if you hit a certain quota, you'll get this amount. So you're going to always have the base salary regardless. I think there's some companies who may try commission only, but do not. Those
I do not encourage people to do that at all whatsoever.
Yeah. So even with account executives now, they have to close the deals to get theirs, but even then they still do get their base salary.
The base salary.
If anything in tech sales, But in account executive, you do want to be able to close the deals because that's, what brings you your value. But BDR, SDR, all you have to really do is book meetings for them to view the product. They don't have to pay it. I mean, they don't have to buy the product in order for you to get paid. And sales engineer, you're just doing the demo of the product.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, usually depending on the company, the only quota that you have to hit as a sales engineer is that there are a certain amount of demos you're supposed to be a part of, or there are certain key things that you're supposed to know during demos, like certain education you're supposed to have. But outside of that, no one's gonna look at you crazy as a sales engineer if you're attached to 10 demos and none of the deals close. Like you have to be
Yeah.
in all my time, I've only ever seen one sales engineer ever let go. And I hate to say it, he and I used to work together, and he was not a good sales engineer. Like he would do his job, but he just, none of the account executives wanted to work with him. His own team of account executives would go over him to hit me up to ask me to come and demo on their demo. And the thing is, he was one of the people that trained me, but I, like myself and the guy who came after me, we quickly passed him in like ability as sales engineers. And like he was like the last sales engineer that anyone wanted to work with. And it was just like, dang.
Yeah.
And so
that's bad.
You know, it is sad. And he hit me up probably like 3 months ago, and he told me, he was like, yeah, man, he asked me if I could help him like get a job somewhere. And I was like, bro, you're not really the best performer. I don't want to like recommend you somewhere and you don't perform well, then people don't trust my recommendation anymore. And I really didn't help him out because he ended up lying to me. He said, yeah, man, the company's just going through a lot of layoffs right now. It's real crazy. I was like, wow. Then I went and looked up and realized everybody is still there. Like, they're not doing layoffs. It's like, bro, you just got fired and you didn't want to admit that you got fired. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. You know,
there are some sales engineer companies where their OTE is based off the deals closing.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're doing that, ask them, is your OTE based on the amount of demos or deals closing? Because that's come up for me.
Yeah, no, that's real. Yeah, because every company isn't the same. Many of them do things differently.
Yeah.
So look.
Yeah.
All right. So y'all coming with the questions now. All right. So
they got more questions.
People are. All right, we got some more questions.
I don't mind answering them. I like to help people out.
Okay, cool. I'm just trying to be mindful of your time. Okay. So we're gonna I'm gonna try to get through the next of these questions pretty quickly for you. So, all right. So one of the questions that's in here is, what kind of information do you need to know as a sales engineer? So again, y'all, she's not a sales engineer, so there might be some things she doesn't know. But at the same time, clearly she's been studying and learning. So I just want to kind of speak that there might be some things she doesn't know, but also to tailor people so that way y'all don't just start sending her an influx of sales engineering questions as well. But nevertheless, so to that question, like, what kind of information do you need to know as a sales engineer?
So I can speak as far as mine. Every company's tech will be different, but for mine, they do conversational AI for contact centers for the voice channel. So it'll be something where we'll do like a live call, and after we call, we'll show them the back end of what they'll see. So like, I show them where you can see the transcription, any of the metrics about the calls, the CSAT scores. So really just, I would say mine is fairly simple, but some companies, and it also depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody who's more into tech, you may have to show more of the IT things, like how stuff is certain kind of formulated and things like that. But usually I would talk to VP of contact centers, and they just want to see like the metrics, like, okay, how long was the calls, what's the CSAT score? So it actually varies, kind of depending on who you're talking to as well. You tailor it.
Yeah, as a sales engineer, you're a product expert. So when you say what kind of information do you need to know, if you're saying what information do you need to know to get the job, that really depends on the company. In general, you're going to need to know what a sales engineer is required to do in a general, like just in a gist. And you're going to need to understand, you're going to need to have some level of technical competency. That doesn't mean you need to know how to code, because I don't code at all. I can't code. That doesn't mean you need to understand how to manipulate APIs, or it's certain things you don't need to know, but it's valuable if you know those things. Some tech companies, you do have to code if that's a requirement they have. Some tech companies have specific requirements. Most companies are this way, where there's something unique about their company that if you have some type of education in that, it looks very attractive to them. You know, so like my first tech company, Dialpad, there was called a telephony company. I know most people here do not know what the flip telephony is. And so it's telephone. It's like where the word telephone comes from. And so essentially they're telephone technology, but now that they're AI as well, they have a lot going on. And so one of the questions they asked me, they said, do you have any telephony knowledge? I was like, I don't know what the flip telephony is. And so, but I told them during the interview, and this is a good interview tip for y'all, is that during the interview, when they brought up something I wasn't that familiar with, I said, hey, I don't know what that is. I said, but look, I said, I'm going to go ahead and research that and get some education on that. And when that interview was over, I went out and I got a certification in telephony. And it didn't take me that long. It only took me a few hours, but I got a certification and I sent it to them. So the people that interviewed me, and I said, hey, I'm now telephony certified. Oh, they definitely put me on the next interview. So it's really good to do that when someone says you're lacking something, instead of saying, dang, I'm lacking it, I guess I'm going to wait to see if I get put on another round of the next round of interviews. It's like, no, if it's something, unless it's something that's going to take you a month to learn, go ahead and get some type of certification or do something and submit to them and let them know, hey, that's no longer an issue. I'm qualified in that thing now.
Yeah.
But when you say,
and on a lot of the jobs on LinkedIn, it'll show you skills that they put associated with the job.
Yeah.
So if you see a skill that keeps coming up, like one of them that kept coming up for me was like cloud AWS.
Yeah.
So I started just trying to learn how to do that on my own. And then you can add it on your skill section and all that stuff. So
yeah, Salesforce, I saw Salesforce come up a lot. So I went out of my way to get a entry-level Salesforce certification. And so that's a good point. If you see something coming up pretty frequently, be like, yeah, let me go ahead and get some type of education in this, because that's always good if you see it consistently. But I would say what kind of information you need to know as a sales engineer. You definitely need to be a product expert of your company's product. Your job is to learn your company's product in and out. Even if you don't know how to code or do anything technical, you need to understand how to communicate what each feature that your company has does, at least to the best of your ability. That's your job, because you're going to demo it, and you can get a demo put on your calendar in 2 days from now, or it's happened to me before where I've gotten a demo thrown in my calendar the same day, which is not normal, but it's happened. And it was like I would get called in to do a demo, and then I would look at the notes for the demo of basically preparing me for what I need to demonstrate. And it'll be a couple things on there that I'm like, oh, I didn't learn that yet, or I didn't learn how to demo that yet. And that's not a good thing. Now, mind you, you're not gonna get fired over that. Nobody's gonna penalize you. But again, you wanna put your best foot forward. You never wanna say, hey guys, I don't know this or I don't know that, especially if you've had the time to learn it. So definitely I would say, y'all, don't be a sales engineer if you don't like to study. If you're not a person where you're down to study, because the job of a sales engineer is study, and then demo and be a resource for your company. So that's important. A lot of people are gonna be asking you questions, and you need to be a resource to answer those questions.
Right.
All right.
And companies can have updates anytime on the technology.
Oh yeah,
like mine did.
Yeah, if you're at a decent company, they're gonna, because again, if your company has engineers and they have a product team, that means your company is constantly going. I mean, shoot, even with Octoply AI, every single week there's like 3 or 4 new features. Like my team and I, my leadership team, and my co-founders, every week we're paying our engineer. And shoot, I have to pay the bill today. Every Monday his invoice comes in where it's like, yo, it's this much money, and I'll be like, Lord, I'm like, okay, let's pay this money. But we're paying it because he's making updates, and every time he makes an update, it's a new feature. And likewise, in the future, when we get a sales engineer, that sales engineer is going to have to demo all of those different features and stuff. So, and the features are always going to be really new features that you're going to have to learn. That's why it's constant study. You're never going to be at a tech company as a sales engineer and know everything at your company, because in a couple of weeks, there's going to be something new that you need to learn at your company. It's like a constant thing.
Yep.
So some of these questions, okay, cool. All right, so the question is, course careers versus careers. Which one is better? That's a very interesting question.
Ooh, interesting.
How familiar are you with careers?
Very. Funny enough, one of the instructors, he left and started his own thing. So I actually joined what he did.
Yeah, you're talking about
Ami, yeah. So it's like I started getting the education. He started teaching. Well, maybe I shouldn't say this because you were careers, but he does some good. He did some good work, so I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, that's dope.
But
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Yeah, no, I would say to answer the question, I would say that which one is better. Neither is better. It really just depends on because they're both very different, actually. So it's really hard to say which one is better. Obviously, I did careers. I got a job in 2 months. She did course careers, got a job a month later. But I know people. I mean, shoot, it's probably people here in the chat that have done course careers. It's been 4 months, and you're still like out there. And that's why I do these lives to help people learn. Okay, how are some of the people getting jobs faster? Or what are people doing, to find unorthodox ways to get these jobs in the industry after the boot camp? And so I would say they're very different. Course careers is self-paced. So realistically, if you have a lot of time and you don't want to be in a virtual classroom and you like to read and study and all of that stuff, you could not. I've seen people knock out course careers in a week, but most people it takes probably about like 3 weeks to like 2 months, which I know that's a wide window, but that depends on everybody's individual schedule. And versus careers, so course careers, you have to be a self-starter. I know people that started course careers 7 months ago and haven't finished it yet. And I pay for people to do course careers, and 5 months later, they're like, "Oh, I'm not finished with it yet." I'm like, "You could have finished this junk in 2 weeks." And so, but that just might not be their thing, and that's what I've understood. And honestly, that's not my thing. Like, so I know careers were good for me because I prefer to be in a classroom, even though it's a virtual classroom. I prefer to be in a classroom where someone's teaching and where I can ask questions and it'd be like a back and forth amongst the cohort. And so that was good for me. And also just a lot of the practical application that I was able to do in careers. I would say a difference is what's really look at sales engineering versus tech sales. I would say that's really what I say you should look at, because if you have the money for careers and you really want to be a sales engineer, I would definitely say do careers and do sales engineering. But if you don't have that much money, or if you just want to do tech sales, I would say do course careers, because again, one, it's much more affordable, but two, you can get that tech sales role. And so, again, it's kind of like which one is better for you, not really which one is better. I would say this, if there was one that was better than the other, I would just talk about one. So I wouldn't talk about both if I was like, oh, this one's way better. Now, I say this all the time. You have and this is, honestly, Shaliah could say all the same thing, that this part of why she chose course careers. You have a higher probability of getting a job as an entry level tech sales role than you do as a sales engineer. Like, because first off, there are more tech sales roles that are open. There are openings for them, and the barrier to entry is not as hard. So, that's why I usually kind of talk about both, depending on what people want, depending on where people are at.
Yeah, and a lot of companies have education stipends. So even like me, if you really want to do it, what I did in my mind, I said, okay, let me do this, get in, then I'm going to use their money to pay for careers. So you can definitely always do that too. Just depends.
Someone asked a really great question over here. It looks like from LinkedIn, Deborah Napoleon. So Deborah Napoleon asked, she says, I'm a teacher by trade. Do you think it would be possible to backdoor my way into a sales engineer role without doing a boot camp?
Hey y'all, we have some incredible news that I'm super excited about to finally announce our private tech community. Yes, you heard that right. A private tech community exclusively for you all who want more than just the podcast. You want more than just the FAQs. You want to talk with tech recruiters. You want to talk with hiring managers. You want to talk with coaches. You want to talk with people that can help with editing and rewriting your resume. Maybe you're somebody where you just want to be a part of a community where we're talking about updates of what's happening in the software industry. Y'all, this community that we've launched is also going to involve a Discord where we're going to be talking about updates in tech. We're going to be talking about companies that are hiring. We're going to be talking about upcoming tech events. So that way you don't have to miss any of the gems that I know, but not even just what I know, but the gems that friends of mine that are also in the tech industry know as well. So if you want to be a part of that community, go ahead and sign up so that way you can join us. We have a few different tiers. Ultimately, it's all tuned in for you. Oh, and last thing, also within this community, we're going to be streaming all of our interviews with our podcast guests. So instead of you having to wait months to watch the videos later on, you will actually be able to watch the interviews in real time and ask your live questions to those guests. So make sure you join our tech community.
What do you think?
Well, I will say this. It's a couple of sales engineer roles that I applied for, and they were specifically looking for people with an education background, or it was based on education. So you can leverage it in that way. But it's always good, I would say, to have some type of boot camp, though.
Yeah.
One thing about me, they like that I took the boot camp because they said, oh, she must really want to do it because she paid to learn about it.
Yeah.
So I would still say do a boot camp, and then you can definitely, if you have since you have a lot of experience in education, I would hit up a lot of the educational companies.
Yeah.
Because I've actually seen that a lot lately, which I was surprised.
Yeah. And Deborah, I would say this, with you being a teacher, and it's a really good question, but I would say with you being a teacher, you would have, if you don't want to do a boot camp, you would have a significantly easier chance or better chance getting in a tech sales role at an ed tech company, which is short for educational technology. So because tech sales, the barrier to entry is not as complicated or as high, and you could leverage your transferable skills like what Shaliah just mentioned specifically for those roles. But of course, you would still have to communicate well, like why you would be able to do that job. But if you want specifically a sales engineering role, the probability of that without a boot camp is extremely low, because again, sales engineer, first off, that's a higher level role than just an entry level tech sales role. So one, you're not looking at, even though you could be an entry level sales engineer is still the equivalent of like an account executive. So the barrier to entry, first off, there are probably half as many roles of account executive, but two, you're expected to have some level of technical either component aptitude or, again, like that boot camp thing. So, and then understand recruiters, hiring managers, I need to start saying this like more often. It's not you versus the role. It's you versus all the other candidates who are trying to get the role.
Yeah.
You know, people always say like, oh, it's me versus me. It's like, that's not the case when you get into tech. It's you versus other people. And understand, so that's probably a better way to think of it. Instead of thinking, okay, am I good enough to get this role? You need to think, okay, am I a better candidate than probably the 50 to 200 other people that have applied to this role? Am I a better candidate? Right. And so if you roll up and you're like, hey, I'm not just a teacher. Like, I don't want that to sound respectful, but like, hey, like in terms of like tech, it's like, yo, I'm a teacher. I didn't do a boot camp. I don't really have any experience, but I really want to be a sales engineer, high paying role in tech. They're going to look at that and be like, okay, but then they're going to look and see someone that's a Python developer. They're going to see someone that has cloud architecture. They're going to see someone that's done 2 boot camps, and someone, I'm doing a little bit of exaggerating, but they're going to see people that have other stuff. We're going back to what Shaliah said. They can see this person has invested in this. They're not just trying to just kind of walk up and say, hey, I want this role. So kind of think of it that way. And I hope that helps. So really good question. Good question, really great question. People need to know about that. And did you negotiate your pay rate while interviewing for the job, or did you accept the offer they gave?
This is funny. So I accepted an offer with another company at first, but I will say this: continue to interview always until you have an offer, like with any company. So I got an offer with that one, but with the other company, I was in like the second or third round. So I was like, let me see what they're going to offer. What the first company offered me as my on target earnings, they offered me as my base salary. So I kind of said, well, they actually asked me, like, because I told them, like, hey, like, I'm interviewing with other companies, so what's the timeline? So it's more attractive when they see other people want you to let them know.
Like, what's up?
And yeah, they actually told me, what's the number that we need to beat? And I told them, they offered me more than that. So yeah, I probably could have did it more because they were based in California. But I didn't really think about that then because the other companies weren't offering that much anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say always negotiate, period. Yeah. And let them know you're interviewing with other companies and like second or, don't lie, but that's why you need to continue to interview.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they'll see the other people want you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah, because they going to want you more when they see somebody else want you.
Yep.
They're going to be like, wait.
Yep.
They were like, hold up, we about to lose you?
Yeah, they said, what do we have to beat to get you? Like, they were going to give me what I asked for, and they gave me more than what I asked for. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's also a good tactic to use. I love the fact that you're interviewing right now with other companies, because that's also a good tactic to use when you are considering leaving your company if you want to raise. Because even when I was at my first tech company, I had talked to them about a raise, and because I started at 90,000, but during the interview process, I told them I wanted 100,000, and they told me, they said, well, we can give you 100,000, but we would have to have you start a month later. And I'm not gonna lie, I was so desperate to be in the industry. I was like, no, I'll just take the 90,000 right now. So then, but they told me, they said, yeah, but they said, we'll be able to put you at 100,000, like, shortly after. So I got into the company. 3 months later, I brought it up to like management team. I said, hey, I was told I would be able to get to like 100,000. Or I would be able to get I said, like, what does that look like? And then management, and of course there was a disconnect between them and the hiring team, and I just didn't know this at the time. And so they were kind of like, I mean, you just started. We're not gonna you're doing a good job, Cyrus, but like you just started. We're not gonna give you a raise right now. But then when it got to month 5, I was like, hey, look, I'm not trying to be weird. I said I was just told that I would be able to get to 100,000. I was like, and it's 5 months in. I was like, I'm just trying to get to that 100,000. And then they were like, well, look, Cyrus, they said, let's talk in a few months. We'll bring this conversation up again, and we'll kind of see what's going on. At this point, I start interviewing with other companies, and it wasn't even because I really wanted to leave. I actually just kind of what we were talking about. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have another company offer me more money, and then I'm going to come back to my company and present this to them. And a company, as y'all know, offered me $135,000 at first. I went back to my company. I said, hey, this other company's offering me $135,000. What's up? And at that point, it wasn't let's talk in a few months. At that point, everything stopped. And they said, look, we don't want to lose you. So they went ahead, they spoke to the HR, and they said, what money do we have? And they were like, look, we can give him a raise to 115,000, because it was a smaller company. The other company was a big company with a lot of money. The other company's smaller. So look, we could raise you to $115,000. And believe it or not, I loved my first company so much. I didn't want to leave. Even I was willing to leave. I was willing to stay there for 115,000 and say no to 135,000. But then I went to the other company. I said, hey, look, I'm sorry. I'm going to stay at my company because they're offering me more money now. So the other company said, they were like, well, look, how much do you want? Like, just tell us how much you want. And I was like, 145,000. And then, and again, my negotiation skills weren't that savvy. They said, okay, look, they said, we don't want this to continue to be a back and forth. They said, so how about this? We'll give you 145,000 and we'll give you a $12,000 sign-on bonus. So essentially $157,000. And I was like, whoa. So I went back to my company. I said, look, y'all, they just upped it to 157,000. And my company was like, Cyrus, we love you so much, but we ain't got that kind of money. So we just gonna let you go ahead and do your thing. And so, but that's also a good way to get a raise at your company at a certain point. If you're having those conversations and they're not acting, you can still use that same principle during the interview to say, hey, look, another company wants me and they're willing to offer me significantly more. And you'll see your company dig deep in their pockets to see what they can possibly give you to keep you, because it's cheaper to keep her.
Yep. And that's what I did with the company, the offer I accepted. And it's funny, I was only there for like 2 days. And then I said, hey, this company, they're offering me this. And then they said that was already approved by like the board and they couldn't up it. So I said, okay, well, I'm sorry. I know I accepted it, but I'm have to leave. So
yeah, exactly. They lost out on a real one.
Yeah, and that's why, again, you keep interviewing, especially if you continue to go up in the interview process, unless you're really like content with the company and what they're offering.
Yeah.
Like, I would say continue to do it until.
This was super good. No, I love this a lot. So look, y'all, we got to go ahead and wrap up. Somebody said, so good, Cyrus, to have foresight to interview. What a great move. This is great. Yeah, this is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Shaliah's been dropping some incredible gems. This conversation is going on way longer than I expected it, but that's a good thing. It's going on longer because there's so much value in a lot of things that she's sharing. I mean, she got me opening up and sharing things that I usually don't share. So this has been really, really phenomenal. So Shaliah, before I let you go, I guess any last thing you want to share with everybody on here?
Yeah, definitely. Again, like I would say, when I was working 10 to 12 hours, like in between every little break that I had, I was applying for jobs, hitting everybody up, scheduling my interviews during that time. So yeah, you really have to have the grit and you really have to want it. And again, the opportunities are out there. You just got to keep going and yeah, just think of creative ways. Again, like I didn't cold call or cold email. I thought about that afterwards. Like I probably should have did that, but yeah, and a lot of the gems that I gave, once I started doing it, I started going up in the interview processes. So definitely use those. And
yeah, definitely. Look, thank you so much, Shaliah. Really appreciate you. I definitely want to, let's say what's up at the Blackest Tech event. This going on, and also at Afro Tech, maybe Black Men in Tech as well. Any other tech events you're gonna be at? Yeah, I definitely want to. In the future have you on and do something with Tech as a New Black. Even aside from the podcast, there's other things that we have in the works that we're going to be doing, even with our own events. And I definitely foresee you being really valuable to just even our guests at our events that we're going to have. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, y'all let
people who want it, because I've helped a lot of people who didn't really want it, and I was doing a lot of work. So yeah,
exactly.
Definitely take all the information and use it.
Exactly, the people who want it. Yeah. So for those of y'all who want it, definitely. And also, y'all, look, those of y'all that are already in tech that are on here, I would encourage you to share this video afterwards with your friends or family members. I really believe this is really valuable for them to see, not just the benefits and the perks of being in tech, but also see okay, how to operate once you're in the industry, the same way that Shaliah's been operating. So that way, you can make certain moves and you can really prove yourself and stand out in a major way. So this is really good. Okay, I guess last question I will address, and I want you to address this too, because again, I feel like an old man in tech, even though I'm still pretty new to the industry. But being in almost 2 years now, someone asked, what are your thoughts on us in tech? I'll let you answer that first. What are your thoughts on us, Black people in tech?
It's for us. Again, just know that really, as long as you do the work, you're just as qualified as anybody else. And even if a company to be honest, at my company, I was there was another Black person. He was French, but I was the only Black girl. So I was the second Black person at my company. Don't be afraid of that. And even if someone may want to make you a token, I would say don't be afraid of it, I guess. Just me, I've used every opportunity I've had, to be honest. Yeah. And again, once you get in the door, if you want to leave, you can leave. But yeah, just don't be afraid of that. But yeah, tech is for you. Tech is for everybody.
I'm gonna lean in on what, I'm not sure if this is what she was gonna say, so y'all don't say this was her that said this, blame it on me. But I'm gonna take what she was saying. I was like, if you're afraid of being a token, don't be afraid of being a token. I love being a token. Make me a token. Because I'm going to be a token and I'm going to get them tokens while I'm a token. Straight up. Get me a token. Straight up. Because understand.
It's funny.
We have to. So first off, for me to answer the question, I would say, yes, this industry is for us. It's more than for us. And the industry wants us. Tech companies are paying. Think about it. With tech events like Render, for example. Render is a mid-sized tech event. It's not small, but it's not massive, like an Afro Tech. Even at Render, and I know this because Tech as a New Black, we were considering paying to have a booth space at Render. Even at Render, there were tech companies that were paying north of $100,000 just to have their company at Render, where people are looking to get jobs in tech. Afrotech, their tech companies paying north of $250,000 to have a booth at Afrotech where they know they're amongst Black people and the companies are there, they want a presence because they're literally giving money to be there to then hire Black people in their company. And they're sending their teams, they're flying, sometimes 10 of their team members getting flights, booking hotels, paying for food, paying for everything, flying their team members out for them to be at these events. So many of these companies are spending $500,000 plus to be at Black tech events with predominantly Black people and people of color. These companies are doing this, not because they're being cute. Ain't nobody paying $500,000 to be cute. They're doing it, and they're not there selling products, so they're not making money.
Right.
They're doing it to hire more of us. So my big thing is there is more. Most of the fear that we have that we don't fit in certain spaces, it's fear that we hold on to that isn't as it's real, but it's not as real as the power we give to it. And so understand, not only is it for us, the companies, tech companies are spending tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars collectively to get us in the industry. So there's never been a better time for us to be able to get in such high-paying industries, high-paying opportunities. So it's definitely for us. The other thing I would say is, for the few tech companies that exist out there where they just want to hire you as a token, I encourage us to remove a selfish mentality. And I want y'all to hear what I'm about to say so this makes sense. Sometimes, y'all, we are so self-consumed where we're like, I don't want to be a token, but understand, if you're a token, even if you are a token, your representation as a token is the doorway that other people who look like you will be able to come through. The same way that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was considered a token Black man that was accepted by whites. Even though he was the acceptable one, him being that token still opened up a doorway that allowed most of us through. So I encourage those of us that kind of feel like, I want them to want me for me. It's like you have an opportunity instead to be the doorway. The same way that I've been a doorway, that hundreds of people are in tech now through myself or Tech is New Black. You know, other people like Sinead, who's on here, hundreds, maybe thousands of people are in tech now because of them like following a lot of tips and advice she gives. Same thing like a lot of the you know, like what Shaliah is doing on her own time, and also her being on here. It's like, that's why I'm like, yo, look, make me a token, pay me 6 figures, and I'm gonna help other people get in this industry too. And then before you know it, we ain't tokens, we're the new norm now. That's why the whole idea of the whole notion of tech is the new Black, where it's saying like, yo, you know how people say like, oh, that's not Black, you know, you don't talk Black, or you know, being an athlete is Black, being a rapper is Black. No, tech is Black. Tech is the new Black. This is Black. And so, my bad, I'm like on my preaching high horse right now. But I hope y'all
there are perks that come with being a token too. So literally my first week, I had 2 plane tickets booked. So I was happy about it. I didn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't look down on you or anything. I don't know if that's what they're referring to. Like you're equal to everybody. So I haven't had the experience where I'm treated differently. Like, no, they're normal. Like, they love Black people. Like, the world's culture is kind of based on Black culture anyway. So it's not too bad. Like, they did a whole Juneteenth celebration. So it's cool.
Yeah, and living out here, so I recently moved to Miami. Most of y'all know, living out here in Miami, like living out here, not traveling to Miami for vacation, but living out here in Miami, it's been a culture shock to me because a lot of people out here don't even consider me Black. It's really strange. Like, many people out here don't even know, even though obviously we know Black is a skin color, but out here people think I'm Dominican, and I'm like, I'm not Dominican, and they think I'm Dominican. But guess what? I've seen people out here that look like Kodak Black, like they're like black, and I start talking to them. They don't even speak English. Like they're not like they're Latino. And I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
you look like somebody from Bankhead in Atlanta, you know. And then I've seen people that look whiter than white, but then they mention white people. They're like, you know, white people, you know how they are. And I'm like, you're not white? And come to find out, they're like, oh no, I'm Ukrainian, or I'm Eastern European. And it's like, I'm like, you look white to me, but it's like the world is so much bigger. It's honestly, it's so much bigger than we think, this whole white and black thing, to where most of the world doesn't really think in terms of white and black the way we do. Most of the world, it's so diverse and vast that so many times when we walk into places and we're thinking, oh, they're looking at me, they're doing this because I'm black. You'll be in places where no one is even knowing if you're like, they're not even thinking the same way. And so it's really important for us to work to remove the shackles of the limitations. Again, a lot of those things exist. They're a reality in many places. But as you start to explore, you realize, man, America is a very small country. And then even in certain parts of America, there is so diverse there where most people there aren't even from America. They don't think the way we think. And so it's important that we expand our minds and just try to work to think outside of the boxes that we've unfortunately either placed ourselves in, or we put ourselves in, or we place ourselves in, or that maybe we have been put in. And so
I always say in textiles, the only color they care about is green.
Yes,
so.
Exactly.
Just let them know you want to make money and you good. Y'all on the same page.
Exactly. And also, last thing I'll say to that, y'all, most of these tech companies are actually financially incentivized to hire more people of color. So even when you think like, oh, they don't want to, I knew that there's a guy who he and I were pretty cool. He was just like, they don't want to hire people who look like us. I was like, bro, they're financially incentivized to hire people that look like, they literally get investments and they get all types of benefits and bonuses for hiring, like, for more diversity. And it's like they desperately want to hire us. They just, again, going back to making sure that you are qualified, they just do want to make sure that they are hiring people that are still qualified. So don't think, oh, they want to hire people of color, so I'm gonna just come off the street and just try to get a 6-figure job. Still come representing yourself, representing your community, your tribe well when stepping into this industry.
And make it easy to find you, which is why you need to be, again, reaching out to them on LinkedIn, and even in your profile, if you have Black woman in tech, you know, with SEO optimization, do all of that. Like, get in their face.
Yes.
Say, you looking for me, here I am. That's what I did.
For real.
So yeah.
I love that so much. Shaliah, thank you so much for coming on here. This is really good, really refreshing. I know people were definitely blessed by this. I was. There was a lot of things that you shared that shoot some tips where I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna put that down in my mental notes and make sure to include that anytime I do like any coaching calls or stuff like that, because that's some good tips. So yeah, thank you so much. Man, yeah, y'all tap in with her and stuff. Make sure y'all tap in with her on LinkedIn, all that good stuff, on Instagram, on the grams, all of that.
Yeah, y'all can ask me questions on LinkedIn too. I like helping people who want help, so I'll say that.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna let you go. So yeah, y'all. Last couple things that I have to share. Of course, those of you who are in the process where you're working to get a job in tech and you're out there applying, grinding jobs. Again, I always encourage people to apply to roughly 10 to 25 jobs a day if you can. Make sure that you are looking at the skills section on the LinkedIn and adjusting the skills section on your resume to be more accurate to the company, so that way your resume is able to rank higher as a candidate, so that way you actually are getting those interviews, because many of you are qualified, especially if you've done a boot camp or you have a technical college degree. Many of you are qualified, but unfortunately most aren't getting interviewed, not because you're not qualified, but because your resume is not optimized specific to that individual company. Because there aren't individuals looking at resumes, but it's an applicant tracking system. It's software that's looking at the resumes and it's denying or disqualifying people. So for those of you that are having a tough time even getting seen for an interview, and you're like, man, I've done all of this work. Of course, my encouragement, is Octoply AI, which is an AI software that I'm a co-founder of, where Octoply AI, it does all the work that it takes for you to get an interview, adjusting your resume for each individual company, specifically your skill section. It doesn't lie or put anything on your resume that you don't have. It takes all the information from your work history, from any certifications you have, everything that you give it, and it readjusts the skill section on your resume for each individual company that it applies to for you. And it also focuses on companies that it knows you're a top candidate for. It does a lot more than that, but I'm about to sit here and go in on the whole spiel. Essentially, check out Octoply AI and look into it. And I definitely think it'll be something that'll benefit a lot of you. Yeah. And other than that, y'all tap in with Tech is the New Black. Tap in with Shaliah, y'all. Like somebody said earlier, she going places. Yeah. So love all y'all, everybody here. Y'all have a beautiful night.
Yeah. Good night.